Hello guys, fellow YouTubers, subscribers. This is Wolf again with Wolf's SPT. Survival Prepping and Tactics. Sorry, Tactics. This video today is going to be about kits. I've already done a weapons kit. Went over with you what I did have, what I think you should have. We're going to go into that again today somewhat. But today I have everything here to show you a basic prepping kit. There's more to it when you want there to be, but this is the bare essentials of what I have and what I think are good ideas to have for your prepping kit. Or those of you who know some military jargon, a bug out kit. Bug out is when you bug out, you run away, get the hell out of Dodge, whatever you want to call it. SHTF has happened and you are heading for the hills. So we're going to jump straight into this and hope you find this information good, informative, educational, all that good stuff. So, sneak back here. First thing we have is a box of batteries. I just have this here as an example. This is a box of AA's. If you plan on having any electronics in your bug out bag, carry extra batteries for it. The standard battery tends to have a shelf life of 10 years. They have some new ones out now that propose to have a longer shelf life. But if you insist on having a weather radio, two-way radios, powered optics on weaponry, gonna need batteries. So plan for batteries. Second thing I have here, we talked about this in previous videos, a fixed blade knife with a blade of at least 4 inches. This isn't my model. This is Derby Boy, my brother-in-law's knife. This is actually a USN MK2 knife. It's an actual military knife. Show you that one there. Pretty good knife. It's got a wood handle on it. Just nice, good quality steel blade. Good construction quality knife. Works as a screwdriver in a pinch. Works as a can opener in a pinch. Tied to a pole or a branch. You've got a spear for fishing. Great multi-tool. Suggest you have it. They're cheap. You can get them at military surplus stores. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them pretty much anywhere that sells anything for outdoors. Next piece of equipment I highly recommend, and I'll give you a few options. I'll do them in what I think is best to what I think is the bare minimum. This right here. I'm going to come up close for this one because this one's small. Is a magnesium fire starter. This I think is your best option. Packaging should come with instructions. Keep it in the packaging. I keep mine in the packaging just so I remember how to use it. I mean, I know, but it doesn't hurt. But it's a good solid way. Doesn't matter if it gets wet. It's got a lanyard on it. You know, you can tie it on your belt or on a bag or whatever you want to do. Start a fire. Learn how to use it. If you get a magnesium, take it out to a park, take it up on the mountain, somewhere where you can control the fire, keep it safe, and if you have a fire ban in effect, don't go out breaking the law. But if you have a fire starter, and it's legal to go start a fire, hell, I don't care if you have a charcoal barbecue, dump the charcoals out, get you some kindling, go practice starting fires. Because it doesn't do you a bit of good to have this piece of equipment, or any other, if you don't know how to use it. Now let's get into some other options. Wish I still had mine made up from back in the day, but I don't. Another really good fire starting kit. Great kit. Anybody can make it. It's cheap. You'll love this. Get you a box of the wood matches. These are the supplies you're going to need. You're going to need a box of wood strike matches, wooden striking matches. You're going to need an empty, if you still have or had a camera that used film, the black tubes that you would get when you got your photos made, find one of those. When sealed, those are airtight and waterproof. Awesome. So you also need a dryer or access to one, and a small tub of Vaseline. What you do, remove the lint trap from that dryer after you've run some clothes through it. You'll have lint in a trap. Pull that lint out. Set it in a big old pile on your workspace. Take that tub of Vaseline, tear off a small piece of lint. rub together, try and make the size and shape of about a quarter. Make 3 or 4 of those. They're soaked in Vaseline, made up of the lint. Stuff them down in that film tube. Take a handful of those wooden striking matches. Put them in that tube. Put that lid on that tube. You have a waterproof, great to carry around, little fire starting kit. It's cheap and easy to make. They're fantastic. What happens is the Vaseline is petroleum based, so it's made from oil, so it's gonna burn. And then lint burns rather well as well. So you combine the two, you get a good long burn fire starter. You ignite it with the match. So what you would do is take your fire pit, set one of those down at the bottom of it, build you up some kindling, but you still have access to get the match to that disc of lint and Vaseline. And then have some logs ready to build up around that already, have them pre-built. Light that Vaseline up. And if all goes well and you did it right with some practice, that should catch that kindling, and the kindling should catch the wood. You've got a fire. You can now cook, boil water. It's great. And if you can't do any of those, for the love of God, in a bug out bag or whatever you throw your survival gear into, please have at least a Bic lighter. I'm a smoker, so I always have at least one form of starting fire on me. But these get wet. They don't work until the flint dries out. They run out of fuel. They're not the best survival fire starter to have, but they're there. It's something. Having something's better than not having anything at all. And I am all about doing this on a budget. I did it on a budget. I started doing this years ago, building up equipment, researching what works, what doesn't, what you can do. And I'm all about doing it on a budget because we still have families. We still have to live our day-to-day lives until the time comes to use this stuff. And I don't want to see people dumping thousands of dollars and reducing their quality of life to be prepared if that's not what they want to do. If they want to do that, more power to you. That's great. Let's move on. Now, I'm not actually moving to this next item yet. What I am moving on to now is knowledge, a little bit of knowledge. You need to be able to have clean drinking water. You'll use this water to clean dishes with, to cook with, to drink. Gotta drink water, especially if you're out in the wilderness. You could dehydrate when exposed to the elements a lot more easily than you do in your home. You need water. Now, you can go to the store, you can buy water purification tablets. They're expensive-ish. I mean, they're not outside reason, but they're more expensive than the standard option. Want to know the pioneer way of purifying water? Boil it. Boil water for 5 minutes. It will kill anything in it, and it's then safe to drink. Obviously, once it cools, for the love of God, don't boil water for 5 minutes and then stick the pen to your lips thinking you're going to drink it. Not a good thing to do. I don't have it out. I didn't have access to it. It's packed away. I have, and I found this at a military surplus store, pouch that holds a canteen and a canteen cup. It has little handles that swivel off of it. That's all I need. I don't need to take any dishes other than that. Got my eating utensil and my cooking utensil right here. Got that canteen cup. I can boil water in it for 5 minutes over a fire. And then I can throw noodles in it and I can cook noodles. I can dump that water out. I can cook some meat in it. I can use it to drink water out of. But I'd probably just drink water out of the canteen. I'm seeing the options there. So that's something else I have on my list. I wouldn't call it a necessity. Everything I'm going over here I think is an actual, like, you need to have this. Maybe not this brand or this style, but something along these lines. But you do need a way to get good, clean drinking water. So whichever way you choose, however you choose to implement it, that's fine. I've given you some knowledge there. Run with it. Choose what works for you. Get her done. The next item I have on my Bare Essentials low-cost prepping list is, this is a big multi-piece thing, so I'm not going to hold it all up at once to give you an idea. But it is a good camping survival multi-tool. This one here, I'm going to come up again to give you a good view of it all. You'll have to bear with me, it's going to take a little bit of time. But this is the handle, and see it's got a hole in it. You snap the attachments in there. It's got a saw blade. This is a great saw blade. The teeth are offset from each other. It'll cut wood. It'll cut bone. It probably cut metal if you had to. So it's just a good saw. A bone saw comes in handy if you're surviving out in the wilderness. If you're going to take some game, you may need to cut wood to take that game or to make a game rack. You're going to need to cut wood. You got a saw. If you take an elk, breastbones on those things can be hard to get through. Use it as a bone saw. That works great. I'm going to set the handle down just because we don't need it for the rest of the showing off of the tools. Next attachment that goes on that handle is this right here. Let's see if I can get this cover off. It's a hatchet here, nail puller, and then this side right here is a hammer. Great. Awesome. Again, another way to cut wood for fires, pull nails, hammer nails. That's a great attachment. And something I think you'll need out there. Here's the last attachment. It's a shovel head. It has a bottle opener on that. I could see a bottle opener being handy. But the shovel head itself especially. You can dig porta potties with it. You can dig trenches with it. You can help make your shelter with this. So that's that tool. And I think something along those lines is very necessary. You can find something similar at an Army surplus store. It's a three-way or a tri-folding trench shovel. They work well. The head pivots, you can use them as a pickaxe. They have a serrated edge to use as a saw. They're pretty much all the same stuff. Great tool. I really recommend you have something similar to this in your kit. Last item is a flashlight. Now, we talked about batteries, but for my kit, I think these are the most awesome lights out there. This one's made by a company called Hot Shot. I don't know much about them, but this is the shake light, one of the shake lights. This one is really neat. It comes on a lanyard with a D-clip, so you can clip to your bag, your belt, whatever. But you shake them, and it's a little LED flashlight. Look how bright that is. That's awesome. The reason I like this one is the only thing it's going to wear out on you, other than if you drop it and break it, which most of these are pretty impact resistant, by the way, is the LED bulb or the switch. That's it. You don't have to worry about batteries going bad. You don't have to worry about not having enough of them. You got kids. You know kids. If you've ever taken your kids camping, you know how they are with the flashlights. They have to have one on them at all times. And if the sun is everywhere but full out in the sky with no clouds covering it, they want that flashlight on. Let's not even get into that little spiel. But so the shake light's a great option. Get a few of them. Get whatever your needs are. But you got to have a flashlight. You can make fires for camp light and warmth, but sometimes you're going to need to work in the dark. Flashlight's a great way to go. If you are of more of a tactical mindset, I not only still recommend this, but I also recommend some sort of a headlamp or hat lamp, something that you can attach so you can work hands-free with light. It's great if you're hunting and other things as well. I didn't get into that, but it's light. How many uses can you think of to use light? So that's your standard non-weapon part of the Bare Essentials low-cost prepping kit. You notice I didn't throw food in there. Those are great items to put in a prepping kit. Not saying they're not. I highly recommend it. Find something that works for you. MREs. There's lots of options out there besides MREs. Let me try to think of a few. Canned foods are great. Canned foods have a great shelf life. They're a little on the bulky or heavy side, but if you can stand eating Spam, Vienna sausages, canned vegetables, canned fruits, you can do just fine on canned stuff. MREs, I've noticed, tend to go for about 10 to 12 bucks each. And if you've got a family feed, they can get pretty pricey now. Your family's well-being in any situation is important, but so is paying your bills. So I understand if you don't want to pay that cost. I know I don't. But I'm also very big on hunting and fishing and things of that nature. Core survival. So I don't worry as much about those things. I do somewhat. But you can always go get canned foods at a grocery store pretty easily. They're not one of the first things that go, like bottled water and toilet paper. So with that in mind, that's what I said. This is the Bare Essentials types of things you should have survival kit that's low cost. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items here that are non-weapon related. So if you're a pacifist, you don't believe in weapons, okay, yes, the knife's a weapon. Yes, the shovel, hatchet, multi-tool is a weapon. But these are tools. But then again, in my book, weapons are tools too. But these are the tools on a basic level that you're going to need to survive in the wilderness without assistance. So now we're going to move into the weapon side portion of this. And I did my weapon kit video. Most of you probably already watched it. But because we're doing my full kit video, my full Bare Essentials kit video, we're going over the weapons again. And besides that, I added some pieces to mine, and mine is now at least complete for at least one operator. But first piece is sidearm. Can be used for multiple different uses. You could hunt small game with it in a pinch if you had to. Definitely can defend your life. Definitely can defend your family's lives. They're relatively cheap in comparison to some other firearms, and the ammo is usually pretty low cost. Nice thing is they're also concealable. You can hide them. I know the state I live in is a concealed carry state. Don't even need a permit as long as you're a law-abiding citizen. If you're legal to own firearms, you can legally conceal and carry those. So, sidearm, first piece. I think it's important to have. When we get done with this, there are other weapon systems that are far better for combat usage, but it's a great last resort piece, and it's a great concealed carry piece. Depending on what happens or how things go down, you go into a town to get supplies, having some big rifle strapped across your chest may not be the best option. It's going to draw attention. Somebody may want to take that weapon for themselves. Somebody may see you as a threat. So it may just be a better option just to carry your concealed piece, get in and out without too much problem. And as far as detection goes, let me tell you guys a little story about concealed carry detection. To the non-trained eye, people cannot tell. Since the state I live in has passed a law saying that any state citizen legal to own firearms can concealed carry them, lots of stores have put a policy saying no firearms, no loaded firearms, any firearms, whatever. Lots of different things. Now, I'm going to use the knowledge that other people have consented to or said on YouTube and other sources. This is a Hi-Point C9 pistol. Pull it out here. I've done a review on it. But they're a little on the heavy side for a sidearm. As you can see, a little on the wide side. I call it a subcompact, not a true compact. It's a compact wannabe. But it works great. And I concealed carried this weapon yesterday, all day long, all over town. Pawn shops, gun stores, convenience stores, at the fuel pumps, everywhere, all day long. Do you know how many people noticed it? Not one. At least not one that gave away through a facial tell or saying anything that they knew it was there. I had a 5-minute conversation with a lady at the gas pumps. And I was standing out in the open, was wearing my sidearm just like this with my coat over it. Couldn't tell. I could tell. And to a trained eye, they probably could tell, but great. So this is one of the bulkier sidearms out there. It's wide. It's a little on the heavy side. But if I could comfortably carry it all day, and it's small enough that nobody else could tell it was there, then it's just fine for concealed carry. So don't let anybody say, oh, Hi-Points can't be concealed carry. They're too big. I'll call bullshit. Now, I am a Hi-Point nut. But most of you that are watching this video have probably watched all my other videos. You should already have determined that by now. Like I said on the survival gear, though, I'm about doing this on an affordable budget. I've got 4 kids, and the other side of my philosophy on that, other than the fact that kids are expensive, is the fact that if you think the best way to protect your family is to go out and buy yourself what is now over $1,000 AR-15 and a $600 Glock, so be it, more power to you. And I'm going to ask you, okay, what are you going to do when you go to cross the field first and make sure it's safe, and you get shot by a sniper in the middle of that field, or a landowner, or whatever the case may be? You get shot in the middle of that field. What's the rest of your family supposed to do? They're already scared. They're already upset. They see you go down, they're going to panic. They're either going to run away and maybe draw attention to themselves and get shot, or they're going to go for your weapons and probably get shot in the process. A very well-known sniper tactic is to wound or drop one guy out in the open and watch his buddies come for him. So I feel it is much better to buy still reliable but much cheaper weaponry and arm my entire family that I know is old enough to understand the weight of what they're doing. And all of my children and my wife are all shooters. I only have planned here to gear up for myself, my wife, and my oldest son. But yet I still train my younger children on the systems. So if need be, at any point in time, I can tell any of them, grab that weapon, load that weapon, and fire at this target. And they might question me if out of the blue one day that becomes a person, but they'll probably still do it. And if they do choose to do it, they'll do it effectively and safely. So let's move on. Next weapon. A bow. Now this is a Martin compound bow, and I've got some attachments on here, and I've got more on the way, but it doesn't have to be anything that's fancy. I don't recommend, unless it's what you really want to do, but like I said, we're talking about on a budget, low cost. I do not recommend, if you're planning on going low cost, going to the sporting goods store and buying a brand new bow. They're expensive. Hundreds of dollars. Go visit your pawn shops, but they always have bows at pawn shops. Make sure the string's in good shape. Make sure you don't see any cracks or stress marks on the limbs or the main body. But I got this at pawn shop, $35. It didn't have the sight on it when I got it. It just had the quiver. So I've spent $1 to $2 a piece on the arrows, and I got a gift card for Christmas, so I bought this sight, and I'm replacing the arrow rest because I don't like this arrow rest, but that's personal choice. But this bow is it's a 35 to 50 pound pull and like a 15 to 20 pound breakover. I don't know the specifics. I haven't measured it out yet. All I know is I can pull it back, I can hold it back, and I can shoot it well. Now I'm a little rusty with a bow. I just got back into it in the last 3 months or so, 3-4 months, but I'm getting pretty good. We were shooting at coffee cans when I was out deer hunting with these just for fun, and was hitting the coffee cans. So yeah, like 20 yards. So that was before I had the sight. I only plan to get better. And that's the thing on any of these weapon systems. Don't just go out and buy them and throw them in your gear. Practice with them. Get efficient with them. The lower the cost they are to operate, good. That's more you can practice and the more you can use them in the field. But the reason I say a bow is essential to a bug out kit or a survival kit. And even if you're planning if your prepping is geared more towards the fear of having to go into combat, some sort of combat, unwilling, willing, whatever. Bow's a great tool to have. Think about the Rambo movies. I'm just saying that's glorified Hollywood, but let's think about it from a logical perspective with that in mind. He could run around, he could hide. This thing makes practically no sound when you shoot it. And you can recover your ammunition if you know where it went. Bows are a great option. One hypothetical situation for combat usage is you're trying to get to your bug out area. We talked about in the philosophy video. If your plan is bugging out, not combat, you have to get to your bug out area, but that may involve combat in itself. So let's say you're going to your combat area or your bug out area. You come across a patrol. You can find the weak spot in that patrol, grab just your bow and your sidearm as a last minute backup, last resort. But you could sneak along the perimeter with this bow and if you have to, take out the one guard that's out on the fringe or whatever, the one or the very fewest amount of guards that you have to take out to go through that area to get to your bug out zone. Bow, perfect. Nobody else is going to hear the shot. If he goes down silent, nobody's going to hear him scream. I mean, that's a big if, but still, a lot better than bang! Oh, here comes 20 guys. So, but you can look into different ways of areas to target or whatever to do to drop target silently. Guys bow hunt for animals all the time, and if you ever watch hunting shows, you don't see or hear a lot of screaming deer or elk or whatever. Humans are different, but I don't know, maybe you could aim for the lung or the throat. Do some research on your own. I'm not going to do all the homework for you. But I would recommend a bow. And like I say, don't If you're doing this on a budget, don't go out and buy some $600 to $900 brand new compound bow. To not even know if you're going to be able to be good with it, or if you're going to like it. Maybe the compound bow is not for you. Maybe a recurve for you. Maybe a crossbow is for you. 3 different types of bow out there. So why go out and spend a bunch of money on a brand new one? At the very least, get something cheap to start out with, and get efficient, or see if you can get efficient with it, and if you like it. And if not, then you can still afford to move into something else. How cool is that? How sweet is that? But okay, now let's talk about uses for some type of stringed projectile weapon. Yeah, let's get fancy on that one. In a bug out type situation. Okay, you're already at your bug out spot. There are other people that are also bugged out in this general vicinity, let's say within, a few miles. Or there are roving patrols, helicopters looking for people. Last thing you want to do is be firing off some large caliber rifle to get you some meat to eat for dinner. Well, what are you going to do then? You could make snares. You can make a spear with your knife and a stick. You can use a bow. Again, silent. It's not going to give away your position. You can hunt with this. This one here, plenty of power. Will take out deer, for sure. Take out rabbit, for sure. Anything between the size of a deer and a rabbit. A dog, a coyote, raccoon, beaver. Lots of good things you could eat with a bow. And I personally do believe that if my numbers are right on this one, which I haven't confirmed the power of it, but I'm pretty sure with a well-placed shot, it will take an elk, no problem. Get you some practice arrows for it. Practice arrow has this tip right here. Looks kind of like a bullet. They're real cheap, and you shoot them into a bale of hay or a cube-shaped archery target or whatever kind of archery target, 3D. They pull right out. You're not having to fight with them with a broadhead, trying to get a broadhead out of a target. But then you also need either arrows that you can change the tip onto a broad tip for hunting, keep them in your kit, or different arrows with broad tips already on them that you can just slap into your quiver and go. And I'm not going to do it fully here on camera, but another nice thing about a compound bow is if you absolutely have to, well, okay, I will kind of do it. The string works as a sling. You can still carry your sidearms, you get no close range, freaked out situation, whatever. Good tool. I love this thing. And I love the idea of them. I've only ever rifle hunted, and now I'm looking into starting to bow hunt. Just because I like the sound of the challenge of it. Next weapon. This is your rimfire rifle. Rimfire doesn't have a central primer, your standard type of bullet that people are used to seeing. We're talking 22 Magnum, other variants of the 22 round. But this one's a Marlin, semi-automatic. I do recommend semi-automatic, even if it only has a 5 or 6 round clip. You're not going to get as proficient with it as quickly as you will a bolt action, because with a bolt action, it takes time between shots, so you place your shots more carefully. However, if we are talking about low-cost prepping for the entire family, you have a young child that you don't trust with a large caliber firearm, this is a great weapon. You can say, okay, we got to go out and deal with a threat. You have to protect the camp. These are harsh realities, guys. You think, it's fantasy for now, but there might come a time when you have to do things this way. So this weapon here, you load up with 11 rounds. And yeah, 22 is not the most efficient thing for killing a human being or a bear or anything else with, but it has been done and it can be done. But you can teach them with this weapon to use it similarly to any type of semi-automatic assault rifle. And the only exception is, I would recommend, being it is only 22 or 22 mag or whatever rimfire you choose, empty the magazine. If it's only one intruder, be it animal or human, empty the magazine. If it's more than one, 2 to 3 apiece, should take them out of action enough to get the job done. You can hear the shots and or the screaming. You can come back and help. But it fights off a threat. And fairly quiet, not as quiet as the bow, but still fairly quiet, cheap to shoot and learn on, and will take small game. I'd say everything smaller than an antelope, it shouldn't have a problem taking down. Now, a wolf, okay, put some rounds in it, but Take out coyotes at closer range. You know, they're effective out to about 100 yards. Rabbits, coons, beavers, squirrels. Puts food on the table if nothing else. So I recommend you have one for your kid. You can get whatever you can afford, but I actually have a couple different ones. I'm showing this one because this one is the semi-auto. The other one I have is a bolt action. For my smaller children, I got one of the little bitty stubby 22 bolt actions. Put a little bipod on it for them, made it a little bit tactical. It's got a peep sight. They love it. For the ones that aren't large enough yet to be able to properly shoulder and aim, get a cheek weld and aim down the sight of a weapon system, that one they can because it's little. But I've shot it myself. It's actually a lot of fun to shoot, and it's basic, it's simple. Love that gun. And I will, as I go through this, I'm not going to show you every firearm I have. I'm not going to say I have a lot. I don't think I have a lot by most people's standards, but I have a few. Let's just say that. I will talk about them. I'll talk about how many of each I have. But yeah, so I have two 22 rifles. In the sidearms, just within the family, I talked about I have myself and two other shooters that I'm training to be operators, or at least semi-operators. Sidearms. My son, he wants to go. He's ready to go bigger now, but as of right now, money's tight. We've been buying a lot of other guns and gear. He operates a 22, a semi-automatic sidearm and 22 long rifle. Great thing is, it's the same caliber as this, it's the same caliber as the other 22 rifle, so it's one caliber. It's one thing I preach to you guys, and I preached it before, and I will do it every chance I get. When planning out your kits, your weapons kits, plan for as few calibers as possible. Because if things get bad, you don't know when you're going to be able to come across ammo. So you pick the popular calibers that are easy to come by, and you also pick the calibers that are cheap to get now, so you can stock up. 22, you can buy 500 rounds for, I don't know, 20 bucks, I want to say. Unless prices went up since the last time I bought, I don't know. So that's my rimfire rifle, and I told you about the other ones I have. The other one I have. Next rifle we've talked about in my weapons kits videos is some sort of tactical carbine style rifle. This one must obviously be either semi-automatic or lever action because you need to be able to operate it quickly, and it needs to have good ammo capacity. By good, I mean more than 5 rounds in a magazine. So this is mine. Just got this today. I haven't dressed it up at all yet. I actually don't plan on doing much to this one, but this is the High Point carbine in 9mm. It's comfortable. It's quick and easy to grip and pick up. It's great iron peep style sights. Takes a 10-round magazine. The great thing is, as I told you, I have the High Point 9mm pistol, so that's one ammo for the both, and they take the same magazines. Now, I can't put the pistol magazines in this carbine because they're too short. They're an 8-round, but with the 40 or the 45 ACP, those have 10-round magazines. They will work, supposedly, in the carbines. I don't know that, but the carbine mags always work in the corresponding pistol. So now, instead of having to buy more magazines for my pistol and then more magazines for my carbine, I can just buy a bunch of carbine magazines that will work in both. I might not even use my 8-round magazine that came with it anymore, unless the band comes out and says you have to have less than a 10-round magazine. Well, then okay, I'll come out with 8 rounds, and I'll find a way to put a keeper in this that only allows it to have 9 rounds. But great gun, easy to operate. Safety is right here. Mag drops right here. Charging handle. I'm left-handed, and I can still operate this firearm very easily. It's got sling swivels over here. Probably the only things I'll be doing this firearm is I like the iron sights, so I've decided I'm not going to change them. There's a tactical stock and there's an aftermarket ATI stock that can be put on these, but I like this stock. I'm going to put a tactical sling on it that allows the weapon to stay close to your chest, and if you drop, just drop it, it comes here, rather than all over the place, or you're holding it over your shoulder like a hunting rifle. No, you let go here, transition to a sidearm, to another weapon, whatever. Gonna end that one at that, but I think these are great. I haven't shot this one yet, but I've known people who've owned them and shot them. Not always in 9mm and some the other calibers sometimes, but they all love them. Watch many reviews, and I will recommend to you, if If you want to watch a great review on this weapon, go to Nutn Fancy. That's Nutn Fancy. Search it on YouTube. You'll find him. He's an awesome guy. And he knows a lot of tactical stuff. He was in the Air Force. He did some Special Forces work there. Does some really cool things with these firearms. He has a tactical stocked version, but still, same gun. Few minor differences. So, but that is the tactical carbine. So I have that 9mm. So as of right now, 22 LR, 9mm Luger, arrows for my bow if you want to count that. And the last weapon system we're going to discuss. Hold on, I'm lighting a cigarette. As I've said before, I smoke. If you don't like it, get over it. I'm a free man still, and I choose to smoke. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. I like guns and I'm a smoker. Guess what? I drink beer too. Yeah, okay, I'm a redneck. Deal with it. A little bit of comedy there to lighten the mood. Last weapon system. You need a bolt action rifle. As you can see, this one is. The reason you need a bolt action rifle is the longer range shots. Now, the companies that make the assault rifles and the militaries that use them will boast and claim to you that, you know, an AR-15 is accurate and efficient out to 500 yards. AK-47, some will say 5, some will say 300 yards. Now, using the AR-15 design, it was actually the military version, but the M16A1 design, or the A2 design, excuse me, which is, you know, not the collapsible buttstock, the 20-inch barrel, iron sights, plain Jane. I could hit targets out as far as they say you can hit them. Would it kill a man? I don't know. 5.56, which is equivalent to civilian to 223. It's a small round, but it has great muzzle velocity. It has a great tumble effect, which what that is the FMJ, hollow points probably not so much, but FMJ or soft tip. They enter a body and they mushroom out and they begin to roll, tumble. They bounce off a bone, they tear up organs. Maximum damage, minimum cost. So all I'm going to get into that is just giving you some basic information. But the reason I say you need a bolt action rifle is I don't trust any of those assault rifles, not saying that they're bad, but I don't trust them to be efficient to kill a person past 300 yards. That, and I don't know, I don't like the setup of them these days. Because if you want to shoot that far, you need a good scope optic on them. The iron sights are better at longer range than I think than the red dots or holographics are. This person looks too small, it's too hard, yeah, whatever. That's me, but anywho, so then you put a scope on it. So then you got to have a way to have a red dot as well, whether they do that whole 45-degree turn or have an over the scope. I don't care for all that. I think it's way too much. That's just my personal style. And on this episode, we are talking about doing this on a family-friendly budget. So this rifle here is the Mosin Nagant 9130. I also just purchased an M44 and a second 9130 for my other family members that are going to be operators. Cheap gun, I mean, with the price guns are going up, but even then, $400 or less, you can get a Mosin. They're military surplus. You do buy one, you want to make sure that the bolt operates relatively smoothly and that there's good rifling in the bore before you purchase it. If it's from a gun store, maybe you can ask them, maybe they'd be willing to use a headspace tool and check headspace for you. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know, but it doesn't hurt to ask. How you want to set it up is up to you, and you don't have to go with the Mosin Nagant either. There's lots of other low-cost options. You could go with a hunting rifle in .308. Now, we're talking, like we talked about a few minutes ago, we talked about calibers that are easy to find and cheap, relatively cheap to buy now, and that you know you'll be able to come across in a bug-out situation. Whether it be going to a town or coming across some other people you can trade with, whatever the case may be. 308 would be a good civilian caliber. 30-06 would be a good civilian caliber, and 270 would probably be a good civilian caliber if you're going to do civilian, bolt action and civilian. Other mil-serps that you could get that are bolt action would be great. Enfields, Yeah, and Enfield and 303 ammo's harder to come by, but there are other options. There's not 6. I don't even know what else there is. I don't know Enfield's that great. I know just a little bit. Mauser is another great one. If you can get it in a more popular caliber, please do for your own sake. But you can get them in things I've never even heard of. But there's lots of different variants on the Mauser. Another great low-cost bolt-action rifle. The reason I'm saying, I've already said what I thought about the semi-automatic assault rifles. They're great weapon systems, but you're talking in the current gun climate over $1,000 for an AR and $900 to $1,000 for a decent AK. SKSs even, which just maybe a year ago were $250 to $350, sometimes $400 depending. Used. And an SKS shoots the same around as an AK-47. It's just a little bit older design. Still a gas-operated semi-automatic type rifle. But anywho, back to what we're talking about is that I don't, like I said, I personally do not trust them to be, no, accuracy I do trust them, but effective-wise, what is that bullet going to do to a person, especially if they're wearing light body armor, at 300 yards and past? Well, I don't trust those weapons to be effective at killing people wearing or potentially wearing light body armor at 300 yards and beyond. These I do. Even at 270, great round. But this one here, 7.62 by 54R, which is just larger than for you civilians out there, just larger than 308, just smaller than 30-06. It's kind of the best of both worlds. The most readily available ammo I can find for them is always at 180 grain, which the rifle itself was designed for 147 grain, so rounded up to 150, but it shoots 180 grain grade. Has a little more drop, that's it. But this rifle, I know if I hit someone at 300 yards or beyond, it will kill them. I've got an Opticon here. I mounted it in the Scout style because this is a straight bolt, and I did not want to do anything to alter the bolt to mount an optic. So Scout mount, but that's great. I get quick target acquisition because I can leave both eyes open if I so choose. This one zooms down as low as 2 power, 2x32, which is a great 100-yard or less zoom. I could use this in a closer combat type situation. Still limited by the bolt action, but as you can see with these rifles, if you polish them and you get good with them, you can work them pretty quick. Now I'm going to decock this as to not dry fire it. But so this could be considered a battle rifle, but it also works as a hunting rifle. Deer, elk, moose, bighorn sheep, antelope. If I want to kill it, this gun will do it if I can hit it, which this one is pretty accurate. You will find most, like I said, these are Milser. Every one is different. Sometimes you might get one that's not as accurate as the next. Look up other videos on here. Look up on forums. There are a lot of forums about Mosin Nagants if you go that route, or Mausers, or whatever. There's forums for everything. And they might be able to give you some hints on how to make it more accurate. The trigger pull on the Mosins is a little strained and different. They have a lot of slop, and then when they do pick up the slop, then it's a pretty heavy trigger pull. But I made a video on modifications you can do that I learned from another YouTuber. It takes a lot of that trigger pull out. It takes, on mine, it took out all the slop, but it took at least a pound, if not 2, off the trigger pull. The M44 I bought, the wife took over on it. She really likes it. It's light, it's small, and does the same thing, works the same way, just a lot smaller. But the trigger pull on that thing's amazing. I've bought Savage hunting rifles that had worse trigger pull. Now, I've seen better trigger pull as well, but for a World War II rifle, that one was made in 1944, so just after World War II. This one was made in 1943. Oh no, that's the other 9130 was 1945. The M44 is 1938. So yeah, World War II. Yeah, great. These weapons have been used in conflict all over the world, are still used by freedom fighting type forces, militia type forces in third world countries. The 1980s. Those of you that are old enough or were taught about it in school, the Russians invaded Afghanistan. Guess what the Afghanis had armed themselves with? The Mosin Nagant. What were the Russians using? AK-47s. Another situation, just like us earning our independence from the British Army. a small group of untrained civilians picked up the weapon of the army that invaded. Now, this wasn't the case in our revolution, but in the Afghani-Russian war it was. Picked up the rifle that the army that was invading them had said was obsolete and got rid of, and beat them with it. This was an obsolete weapon system compared to the AK-47, and yeah, they got help along the way. We gave them aid and we did other stuff, but for the most part, they fought by themselves for themselves, and this most times was their weapon of choice. This one, as you can see, I've dressed up. I put a composite stock on it. Takes about a pound off the weight. I added a bipod and the optic and scope mount, which I already showed you. Another great thing about this optic is I said it goes down as low as 2x32. It goes up as high as 7x32. So if I'm hunting or need to make whatever longer range shot, that zoom level is fully well able to do that. You should be able, most people, military types, were trained to shoot 300 or more yards with iron sights. So a 7x32, no, is that, your mil dot 40 power, 50 power sniper scope? No, it's not. But also, with one of them scopes, even dialed all the way to the lowest settings, 75, 50 yards, and that's presuming that you had the foresight to dial it down or knew what was going to happen. I've been deer hunting with a 3 to 9x40 power scope, which is just a standard deer scope. Had it dialed all the way in because I'd been trying to take a long shot at a deer earlier. It ran off before it presented a decent shot. I let it alone, moved on. Come across a deer at the end of the day, jumped it up, had no idea it was there. This deer is 40 yards from me at almost a full run. I raised the scope, had a good clean shot, even though he was at a run. I know my abilities. I could have and would have hit him. So when I looked through the scope, still dials all the way up to 9. All I could see was brown, and I couldn't tell if that was the fur of the deer or the blades of grass on the ground. What are you going to do with that? So, not saying this scope's a better option than a sniper scope, but I wanted versatility. And this scope, for me, I can use from 20 yards all the way out to 500 with no problem at all. It's got a good no-slip sling. Like I say, hunting, if you want to make some, or feel you need to put yourself in a position to make some marksman-type shots, long range at enemies or potential enemies in a bug-out situation or combat situation, if it were to ever come to it. Something like this is great. You want to stick with civilian, civilian, that's fine too. You do the same thing. You can have your scope mounted forward. You can put a long eye relief scope on it. You can go with this power scope. You can set it up exactly the same way. It's just civilian caliber, civilian action. Nothing wrong with that. The Remington 700 is a great model of firearm. I currently have one in 7mm. I just bought it for my brother to help him out for a while, so I don't intend on keeping it forever, but I hunted with it this year. It took 2 deer down, mine and my son's. Great weapon. Have no problem with it. But the reason I don't intend on keeping it is because I bought 2 other of these, and those are going to be the training rifles and the hunting rifles for my wife and my oldest son. He's going to dress his Mosin up how he wants. She's going to dress hers up how she wants. So, great weapons. All the weapon systems we discussed here, they're reliable. They shoot. You keep them clean. You keep them from getting banged up. They're going to work for you. Now, the ones I have could take some wear and tear and some beating them up, and they'll probably be just fine. And don't let people get you down. The reason I'm such an advocate for affordable but still reliable weapon systems is there are a lot of what I call gun snobs out there, and I'm not using that in a derogatory way. But what I mean by that is, I mentioned it earlier in part, and we'll talk about it fully here. But don't let these guys get you down. These are the ones who will tell you that the only thing to use for a bug out or prepper type situation is an AR-15, and none of the lesser brands, like, I don't even know. Last time I looked into getting an AR-15, DPMS was generic, and so was Rock River. People recommended not buying them. Now, from what I hear, DPMS is one of the better brands. Yeah, back in the day, last time I actually seriously considered getting one before this year, the two only true good brands on the market were Bushmaster and Colt. So that tells you it was a long while ago. It was like '02, I think. But the reason my reasoning is okay, if you have the funding and or choose to have the funding to do that and only care about arming yourself, or even if you make the money and you want to arm your whole family, similar to how I have with those weapons, there's nothing wrong with it. That's fine. But I know my abilities. I have my own beliefs. I have my own capabilities. And I'm not going to let someone else's hateful opinions judge how I buy my firearms or what firearms I buy. Buy what you're comfortable with. Try different things out. And don't let anybody else tell you what is right or wrong. And you've noticed I have not done that in my line of videos, or at least I've attempted not to, and if I have, I've tried to retract it. I'm not going to tell you, don't get that, that's wrong. Don't get that, or get that, that's the only way to go. I'm not going to do that. I've showed you what I have. I've made recommendations based on my opinions about what I have or what I think most people should have. But I try to keep it very general. But the gun snobs will tell you, yeah, it has to be this brand or this brand or this brand. It has to be this style. It has to shoot this caliber. It has to have an optic. Yeah, and typically, pretty much what these people believe is the good stuff always costs a buttload of money, and that's the only good stuff, and everything else isn't going to work for you. They're dead wrong. They're dead wrong. I have already given you one example with the Mosin-Nagant rifle. The Afghan army beat back the Russians, and as far as on the ground was concerned, the greater part of the Afghan forces were using Mosin-Nagants, and the greater part of the Russian military army was using AK-47s. So if a rifle design that was designed in 1891 by fewer soldiers can beat a weapon designed in the latter half of the 19th or 20th century and can win against it, then the guy who's going to tell me an AR-15 is the only way to go and it has to be at least $1,000 with at least a $600 optic on it, and it has to be a certain style optic, and I have to shoot only a certain brand of ammo and certain grainage, I'm going to tell them they're full of shit. And I try not to swear too much on these channels, but I don't think shit's too much of a swear word, and that's exactly what I'm going to tell them. I'm very passionate about that. People will tell you, if you're not too experienced in the firearms world, and you're watching my videos to learn, which is great, that's why I'm here, and even if you do know some or think you know a lot, and you're here and you're still learning, that's why I'm here. That's why I do this. I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to get ahead. I'm trying to share knowledge and bring people around to my line of thinking, and it's because I think there are people out there that want that. And the reason I do it from the objective that I do is because a lot of people, I know when I got out of the military, okay, I got to shoot all these cool guns. M9s, which is Brother 92, M16s, M4s, M60s, MK19s, which for those of you who don't know, it's a M60 style gun that shoots 40mm grenades at full auto. The most fun I've ever had with any firearm. I'm sorry. I've just got to say that. That is the most fun. I've shot 50 caliber full auto machine guns that shoot 2,500 rounds a minute. I don't care. Funnest thing ever is shooting fully auto 40mm grenades. But anywho, I got out and I started to get back into firearms, and I wanted to expand my knowledge and my base beyond hunting rifles, because other than the military, the only experience I ever had was my dad's Colt 45, and not in 1911, a Colt Peacemaker replica, and a bolt-action hunting rifle, 308s, 30-06s, and a 300 Winchester. The only 30 and a 30-30. Those are the only things I ever shot, as far as rifles were concerned. Oh, 22s, of course, but I wouldn't even count that. And I wanted to expand, and yeah, that's what I got told. Oh no, don't buy that. It's cheap, so it's junk. Don't buy that. It's cheap, so it's junk. Oh, don't buy that. It's not the right. It's not a semi-auto. It's not this. It's not that. No. Trust your gut. Ask people with objective opinions that are open-minded, and it should be fairly easy to tell. But another example, people will tell you high-point firearms are junk. If you watch my review on the pistols, you already know I believe otherwise. I said earlier, I'm a high-point nut. I mean, nut. I owned Rugers, Glocks, Tauruses, and Berettas before I owned my first High Point. Oh, and a Smith & Wesson 38 Special. Actually, I guess it was 357 Magnum because it shot 357 and 38 Special, but nonetheless, same diff for the intents and purposes of the conversation I'm giving you. But, had a friend picked up a High Point at a gun show. High Point in 45 ACP. I never even shot a 45 ACP. I'd shot 357, 38, 9mm, and borrowed a buddy's 40 ones. So, guy gets me this High Point 45 ACP. Used. Took it out, loaded it up. Now, that particular one, I noticed it didn't care for cheap ammo. Now, I'm not saying cheap ammo is bad or wrong, but that particular gun did not like Wolf or Blazer. Federal, Winchester, anything else. Shot it like a champ. And the gun was accurate. I did notice it was heavy. I didn't know how they operated at the time. I didn't know they were gas blowback. I thought they were spring like every other semi-auto hand or sidearm. And I thought they put a weight in the front to keep the recoil down. I loved shooting that gun. And other than Wolf and Blazer, shot everything great. Never had a misfire. Never had a jam. I needed the money, got rid of it. Money got a little better a couple of years down the road. Went and bought myself a brand new High Point pistol in 40 Smith & Wesson. I shot everything through that. I probably put 500 rounds through it in a year. No problems with any ammo. Accurate, on target. Notice the same things about it. Little clunky, little heavy, functioned great, accurate as all get out, and affordable. Now, some time went by. I wanted to get into a single action revolver. I went and got me a Ruger Vaquero. Had went out and bought my wife a High Point C9 because she wanted a cheap 9mm. She wanted to move up into that arena. Got her it. She loved it. I shot it. I loved it. About the time I got that, like a week after I got that Ruger Vaquero, coworker says, "Hey, I got this High Point pistol. It's a pile of junk. If you do this for me, I'll give it to you." And at that point, I'll take any gun I can get my hands on for cheap just to have a good collection. I was prepping, but not on the level I am now. So I got it from him. And I self-taught myself some tricks with the High Points. I find I have this break-in regiment that I do on the pistols that seems to work rather well. I figured it out on my own when I bought my wife her C9. She could not pull the slide all the way to the rear, and she did not have the strength to, and she didn't have the strength to lock the slide in the back position using the safety, like you do on those. And I noticed that. So after we shot it to try it, first thing I did, and again, I had no misfires, no failure feeds, no problems with any ammos, nothing wrong with this gun. So all I did was I took it, locked the slide in rear position, loaded the magazine, full 8 rounds, cut for the 8-round magazine, put them in the top of the closet. Now, top of the closet part isn't what's important. What's important is I let them sit there for a week. Took the pistol down, let the slide go back forward, handed it to her. Or I worked it a few times, but see how I thought it felt. Handed it to her, said, pull the slide all the way back. She could do it, but still had a little bit of a hard time. So I put it back up for another week. Locked the slide in her position. Brought it down. She did it beautifully. Took it out, shot it. We actually feel it shot better than it did brand new out of the box. So I dubbed that at that point in time, that is my High Point pistol break-in regiment. I do that now on every one I get, no matter what. I lock the slide to the rear, and I load the magazine full, and I just let them sit till the first time I go shoot. And if it takes time beyond that for whoever's going to be shooting it primarily, then I can do it more. If it works, fine after, if it's a few days or a week, okay, cool. But it's just a minor general break-in on the springs. It's nothing serious, nothing major. Nothing anybody else couldn't have figured out on their own with a little bit of knowledge of how firearms operate. So I've got this Ruger Vaquero. Coworker calls me and says, "I've got this High Point 9mm. Fires 3 rounds and jams. Fires 3 rounds and jams." So, okay. He's like, "I don't want it. If you help me do this stuff in my house, I'll give it to you as payment." So, okay. Didn't actually end up doing the work. He says, "I know how much you love High Points. I'll give it to you anyway." So, okay. So I got it. I did standard break-in on it. Because I looked at it and I figured, yeah, that spring's pretty tight on the slide. Yeah, okay, the magazine. Let's break it in. See if that takes care of it. If not, then we'll call High Point because they have a great warranty. I've said this in my review video, but lifetime, transferable, no questions asked, no receipt needed, warranty. I do recommend calling them first because they may not need you to send a firearm in. They may just send you the parts if it's something minor. But if it requires work, you send a firearm in. Sometimes they even take care of some of the shipping or the return shipping. They mail it back. And I've also heard a lot of reviews that they'll throw in a free magazine for you having to go through the trouble of being without your sidearm for a couple weeks. I've also heard their customer service, you get a person every time. They're knowledgeable, friendly, helpful, and American. Well, not American, but you can understand what they're saying. It's never somebody from overseas that you have a hard time understanding what they're telling you. And they're a company right here out of Ohio, so every gun is made in the USA of stuff made in the USA, or at least to the standards of stuff made in the USA. So to skip ahead, so I finished a break-in on that. I got the Ruger Vaquero. I finally could afford the 45 long Colt rounds to go shoot it, but I didn't care. It's what I wanted, and I had the money, so I got it. I knew it was expensive when I got it. I didn't care. So we'll go to the range. Shot the rifles for a while. Blah, whatever. Do that all the time. Not going to get into it. Move on down to the pistol range instead of 25-yard target. No, 25-foot target, I'm sorry. Load 6 rounds in the Vaquero. It's on the paper with every shot, but I'm using the same trigger pull, same fundamental shooting techniques, same sight picture every time, and hitting a different spot on the paper. We're talking inches apart. 3, 2, 6, 7 inches apart every shot. Couldn't figure it out. All my son fires 6 through. He didn't have much better luck, if any. I loaded up again. Same thing. It's like, man, we shot the whole box. We ended up shooting the whole box. It's like, man, the trigger pull's great. The recoil's not bad. It's fun to shoot. It feels nice in the hand. No complaints with the gun other than the fact that it's not hitting on paper the way I want. So, and like I said, when the coworker gave me the C9 9mm pistol, it's actually the older style design with the fixed rear sight and the metal backstrap instead of plastic. But I actually got it for the kids to have it, to shoot, to have a prepping sidearm for my oldest son. Anywho, so I didn't like the way the Ruger Vaquero shot. This one had a 4-inch barrel, and like I said, to me it seemed highly inaccurate. I know my shooting capabilities, and I consider myself at least at marksman level shooting, and most of the time. So we take the High Point C9 out of the box, fully load the mag. We were shooting Blazer that day. Rock the mag, 8 rounds, no problems. Great grouping. I mean, groupings like this. Handed to my kid, same thing. Good groupings. 25 feet is the standard self-defense distance in which sidearms are used. Typically, if you just run the math, that's what it is. Not being arbitrary or anything else there. It's what the statistic is. And so we noticed this High Point C9, this $130 gun, new, outshoots a higher end firearm as far as single action revolvers are concerned. I mean, Ruger Vaqueros are not cheaply made or cheap firearms. So I decided at the end of that day, I went home, thought about it, mulled it over for a while. I was like, I don't like this Ruger. It's like, so instead of giving this to the kids and being theirs, I was like, I'm going to keep this for me. I went and sold a Ruger, and that's how I actually used the funds to purchase a 22 sidearm and a 22 rifle for the kids. And they love them both. Phoenix Arms is the pistol, and you've seen old W22 bolt actions. That's what I got them. They love them both. Even my older son loves shooting that little teeny tiny 22. It's got a fairly tactical looking peep style sight on it and a bipod. I put a bipod on it. And it's an accurate little gun. It's very accurate. I'm really shocked. But it's good. I think they're made by Savage, by the way. And that's how I came to have my High Point C9 pistol. It outshot a Ruger Vaquero, and I like it. So the moral of the story is that's what I wanted to walk you guys through, to get you guys to a point of understanding that people can tell you higher end firearms are the only way to go, and that's fine for them. But You don't have to believe that. You don't need to believe that. And you can make a weapon system like mine work just as well for you, understanding your capabilities and abilities and knowing what your expectations are. Sorry about that. Hell, snafu with the cigarette. My weapon system, I just went through it all with you here, $1,000, give or take. So every category of weapon that I recommend for your prepping kit, I got roughly in the ballpark. Now, most of this I got, before the price of weapons went up, but still, for the same price of what is now the price of a lower end AR-15. And that's what I'm saying. Do you plan on just prepping for yourself, which I don't see that as functional. I'd love to have a rational adult conversation with somebody who thinks I only need to have 2 high-end firearms for myself and I'll defend my entire family in a bug-out situation. Hey, more power to you. I'd love for you to explain the logistics of that to me. I really would. Like I say, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything else. I'm not saying it's wrong or not the way to go. I'm saying it's not the way to go for me. I don't see how it works out logistically. But I'd love to have that debate with somebody. I really would, just to hear what their viewpoint is. But we've gone through the kit, all the categories of things you should have. All this stuff here, a couple trips to the pickup, you're ready to go. Everything else, like I said, yeah, I think food and water is an important part of prepping, but you can make drinkable water, and if you have the weapon systems, you can get yourself food to eat. If you want plants, okay, that's a different story, but you can educate yourself on what plants that grow in the wild in your area are safe to eat or not, what you can get to grow. You could take seeds for corn or kale or whatever you want to grow. Nothing wrong with that. But I could, if I wanted or had to, I could find a way to take a bow or a fish with a bow. People do it all the time. They have fishing bows. I can take small game. I can take up to large game. I can defend my family at any range. And my weapon philosophy, why I have the kit that I have. My high point carbine, my tactical carbine is a 9mm Luger, same with my pistol. I already said that. I've already shot my 9mm pistol accurately at 100 yards. I should be able to do that with the rifle, but I only intend to be able to do 75 yards with that. Past that, I'm going to break out the Mosin. I'm going to break out the bolt action. Now, sure, that's not quite as versatile as, okay, I just have an AR-15. But like I said, I don't trust him to be effective at killing past 300 yards. Past 300 yards, whatever. In that area. So for me, this is what makes sense. I only need semi-auto capabilities less than 100 yards, and that's in a really tight spot. Even then, if it's staying at 75 or it's slow moving or not very many threats, I'll probably stay on the bolt action. Like I said, I can dial that scope down to 2x32, and that's a great zoom level for that range, and I can still engage multiple targets. That Mosin Nagant has a 5-round magazine. It uses stripper clips. I can load it really quickly. I already showed you I can operate the bolt very quickly. I can definitely engage multiple. I know for a fact I, as a shooter, can engage multiple targets at 75 yards with that weapon. Very effectively. And like I mentioned as well in another part earlier in this video, is I've shot with semi-autos and I've shot with bolt actions. And I know for a fact, and I've studied it and I've watched it time and time again. And think about it, if you're a shooter, if you're an experienced shooter, think about this yourself. When you have a semi-auto, do you plan out your shots nearly as carefully and take your time? No, you don't. You get this mindset in your mind of, oh, I can always pop off another round. So you're a little more haphazard in your shooting, but not with a bolt action. Perfect example for less experienced people who don't know shooting as well. Used to go rabbit hunting with my friends all the time in high school. Just us guys. Great time. They all had high-end semi-auto 22s. A lot of fun to shoot. When we'd shoot targets, great. I had this early model, single shot 22 bolt action. Like I said, didn't even have a magazine. You put one round in, closed the bolt, you pulled back the cocking handle. It had a cocking handle that you had to pull back manually, like the Mosin Nagant has it, but when you operate the bolt, it pulls that back for you. And every time we were rabbit hunting, these guys had 20, well, one of them had one of these Marlins, so 11 rounds. The other two had like 1020 Ruger 1022 stuff like that. So they had box type magazines that held 20 to 30 rounds. I don't know what, because I didn't really count or care. And this was well over 10 years ago, because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But anywho, I always took home more rabbits than they did. And I noticed they'd see a rabbit and they'd pop up real quick and pop, 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 pop. They'd dump a whole maggot, one rabbit. And me, one would pop up and it would be mine to shoot. And I'd have one in, I'd pull back the cocking handle, raise up, get stable, control my breathing, control my heart rate, control my trigger pull. 9 times out of 10, dead rabbit. And they would go on, talk about how much of an awesome shooter I was, and I wasn't very trained in shooting. I mean, I'd taken some deer, and I'd shot a lot throughout my whole life, but I had not learned more than the fundamentals about shooting. I had not studied shooting like I have now. I don't consider myself at that point not to have been a great shot. The difference is I knew, because I only had one bullet to shoot at that rabbit. I didn't know for a fact it was going to jump in a hole, but rabbits tend to run through their holes. So I knew that there was a pretty good chance I only had one shot at that rabbit. Whereas they knew they had whatever their magazine capacity was. So they were a little more haphazard in their shooting. So with that, if I want to interject that line of thought into the semi-auto versus bolt action on your long rifle debate, I'm going to win. Because, I mean, you can watch a lot of the 3-gun competitions if you get a chance to watch them on TV or in person. And they'll pop, 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 pop. I've shot bolt actions more often than not than I have over semi-autos. And they're both great. Semi-autos are more fun, I will give you that. But for that same reason. Because you can just pop off rounds. That bolt action, there's nothing like making a well-placed shot and it landing on target right where you want it. Or in the very nearby vicinity on that target. And I know that is actual human mental conditioning. You can test this for yourself. If you have both a bolt action rifle and a semi-auto rifle, go out and find something that you can hunt with both those calibers and see what happens. Like I say, go out for rabbit or squirrel, go with the 22 bolt action, go with the 22 semi-auto, and spend equal time on each and notice the difference. You will find that you will probably most likely take more with the bolt action than you did with the semi-auto, simply because of making sure you implement the fundamentals of shooting, because you know you have less chances to shoot at that particular target. And the same thing will apply, and that's just basic combat mentality, making your shots count. And you can preach to yourself and have somebody else preach to you all you want, making shot count with semi-automatic. When you get in a high stress or panic situation, you're not going to. You're going to pop, 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 pop as fast as you can pull that trigger. And so I know I can effectively engage multiple targets at 75 to 100 yards with that bolt action rifle and still take them down. Now, I do have the 9mm, and I can just easily take that out, throw in a mag, charge it up, and engage targets. But that I intend to be my closer range, have to be mobile defense weapon. In a tactical, in a combat or bug out situation, someone engages me. Let's just use that as a hypothetical. Somebody engages me. It's just me. I can take that Mosin Nagant, and I can engage them when they're out at 300, and I can engage them at 200, and I can engage them at 100. And they start getting in past 75, and they're starting to rush me pretty hard. I'm going to sling that Mosin Nagant. I'm going to grab that high point 9mm, that 995, and I'm going to go to work. But it's not going to be aggressive at that point. It's going to be as I retreat. It's still going to be effective. It's still going to do its job. And you don't necessarily, your aim isn't necessarily to kill everybody who engages you. It's to put them out of action. All you have to do is put them on the ground to where they don't want to fight anymore. People want to survive, and when they're shot and bleeding, unless it's in defense of their own life, they're really not intent on trying to do much damage at that point. And that's all you need. And that's why a 9mm carbine will work for you in your kit as your tactical carbine. Now, if you want to combine the two and spend the money and have an AR-15 or an AK-47 and optics and the whole thing, that cancels out the need for both a tactical carbine and a bolt action, if you want, and that's up to you, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. I really wish I had somebody else here to debate this stuff with, or to talk back. It's kind of hard. I'm still new to the YouTube thing of doing videos like this, but I do my best to remain objective. I think I've succeeded in that mission. I think I've taught you guys a lot of stuff, and I'm going to continue to do so. I'd really like to start getting some feedback, though. I've got some subscribers, and I'm getting some people that watch regularly. I noticed when I did my reviews of both the Mosin Nagant rifle and the High Point pistol that my views went up on all of my videos substantially, and I thank you guys for watching for that. Really though, please start making comments, subscribe. I have a Facebook. It's the same thing as Wolf's SPT vlog. I'm sure if you just search Wolf's SPT, it'll come up. Please find it on Facebook. Like it. You can send comments there. If you want me to go over something in particular, a knowledge base, a tactic, a philosophy, a weapon system. If I know about it, I'll do a video for you. I have no problems doing that. I want to give you guys as much knowledge as possible. I don't know everything. I know a lot, and what I do know about, I tend to know a lot about. But I'm more than happy if you guys will like and subscribe, maybe find me on Facebook, leave comments, whatever. I would like you to subscribe, please, 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 I beg you. And I'm more than happy to, if I have knowledge on any subject or any system or any philosophy, I will discuss it. I will make a video and discuss it. Please watch my other videos. I also did another one, should be just before this one, and it's going to be on freedom and the current gun ban debate and philosophy of such. Please watch that one. I find that one very important. Please watch all my videos. I find them all very informational. If there's anything I left out, I apologize. Like I say, ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. And if I can't do it in type, I'll make a whole video. Whatever we need to do, we'll get it done. But I want you guys to be prepared. I do see the potential for very scary times up ahead. I'm not saying I think it's going to happen. I'm saying I see the potential. And all I got to say other than that is, so now you see the layout of a basic kit. Other important things to add would be, if you have time to load up such things and have such things as food, water source, jugs of water, whatever. Shoot, if you got time to hitch up a camper and take it to a bug out site, take it. But I think with the items I've discussed in this video, gives somebody a good basis. And if you have to go right now, these are things you can load up relatively quickly into one vehicle and get down the road. And I think that pretty much about covers it. So, this is Wolf. I'm out. Please subscribe and like. Watch all my videos. Have a good one.